All right, welcome to VMware Explore Barcelona 2024, Day 3. We've had so many great conversations this week. I highly encourage you to go to vspeakingpodcast.com and get all the episodes. We're going to try to get them out as soon as possible, but I've been looking forward to this one. This is a good friend of the show, Tom Nagelmeyer. Tom, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Pete. So happy to be here. Long-time listener, first-time participant.
Yeah, like we've known you for years. It's hard to get you on, actually. We've talked about this before because John is such a vSAN nerd, and you are vSAN product marketing, and you know this stuff great, but it's like, if I have you on and John and me, we need someone to have a different flavor. But I'm so glad that John is doing something else right now, and I'm so glad to finally have you on.
Well, like I said, great to be here, and happy to, just share some knowledge.
Absolutely, yeah. So I want to talk about, this is a slightly different spin on vSAN. I want to talk about the actual storage deal economics and negotiations. I think this is something that most customers are going to be interested in. This is something that's really important. Obviously, cost is important. And I want to get your perspective. I know you speak to a lot of customers. And so before we get into that, how has your week been so far? I know you've been talking to customers. What's been the tone for you this week?
It's been really exciting. Lots of people are very interested in vSAN 8 Update 3, vSAN data protection. For a lot of them, this is a game-changing feature. Lots of interest. We have a very technical audience here, so lots of technical questions. Lots of interest in VCF and VVF. So really across the spectrum, pricing, licensing, product features, technical deep dive. It's been really engaging.
Okay. So when you're actually trying to figure out cost for a server, for not even a server, that's the wrong way to say it. When you're just trying to consider what the cost is for storage, where do you even begin?
Before we get into that, one of the things that I think is why we have this conversation is because it is a challenge. And one of the things that I have to always address is, am I fabricating this? Do people actually think the cost of storage is a challenge? So I ask all the time. And, because I just want to make sure I'm not making this up,
right.
That people actually care about this, and they do.
They do because of the fact that we used to have tiering, right?
Right.
These flash drives are so expensive, and so back in the day, before we had the express storage architecture, we had to have some way to keep that cost down. So yeah,
and we all know that data is growing. You need storage for it, and that is the number one overriding concern. Is hey, I have to continue growing my storage, and very much tied to that is, this is really expensive.
Yeah.
My storage costs continue to grow because I need more, and it's everywhere, right? So that is basically the big storage challenge in a nutshell, is it's growing and it's expensive, both on the CapEx and the OpEx side.
Yeah, that's a great point on the end. So it's not only just the CapEx, but it's also the OpEx.
Yeah. Now, storage is still a very capital-intensive purchase, and that's the majority of it, but OpEx is significant, and the larger you get, the more OpEx there is. So, customers, when they're looking at storage, and this goes back to a big point that I wanted to make, is price doesn't equal cost, right? Like when you're looking at the cost of storage, a lot of times the first thing you'll hear is $1 per terabyte.
Yeah, absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
But it's so much more than that. And so that's why I'm here to talk about it. It's really
Very
interesting.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more about the importance of a TCO model.
Yeah, it's absolutely critical because price doesn't equal cost. There's a lot more that goes into it. And these are skills that you can use in your personal life, any sort of durable good purchase, right? Like it's not like we're going into the grocery store and we're buying food for the week, because then price equals cost. But when you're looking at something like, say, investing in a car in your personal life, and you're having to decide between, a very common example would be like a gas car versus an electric.
Yeah.
Well, they're very different, right? And you can't just say, whoa, there's no gas price, so this is like a free car. And it's not, right? The operational costs, are certainly different, but they each have their own challenges. And so building that model and understanding, okay, so I've got my upfront costs, but using the car analogy, now I've got insurance costs, I've got energy costs. Like with an electric car, do I want a home charger? That's a few $1,000s right there. What if I get in an accident? How long does it take to repair? How much do those repairs cost? And
Great analogy. Should I buy or lease?
Yeah, and then there's the residual value too, because that's what a lot of people don't even think about. Residual, how much is this thing going to be worth when I sell?
Right.
Does it retain its value, or am I going to drive it into the ground and it's worth almost nothing, right? So the importance of a TCO model for storage is absolutely critical in determining what your cost structure is going to be like for 3 or 5 years, and it can absolutely sway an investment decision one way or the other.
Okay, so someone that's new, that's actually looking into this for the first time and saying, I really need to do this, like, where do they even begin to actually figure this out?
Yeah, I think the first thing that they need to understand is, what is my current cost structure, right? So understanding how long do these certain activities take. Start with the OpEx side. If you're doing it for the first time, look at the OpEx. How long does it take to do these particular tasks? How many people do I have working on it? And a best guess, right? Like you look at someone, over a week and then kind of estimate out a year's worth and extrapolate out 3 years. So that's on the operational side. On the cost side, you can just get a quote, right?
Yeah.
You can get a quote. We have some great tools. If you are a VCF customer, you've got some great tools that'll help you forecast, future needs. You can talk to your sales rep, talk to a reseller, get their opinions to really help you start building that model.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it because I guess it's going to change over a year, right? Because there's upfront costs when you're getting the servers. And so I guess that's certainly something you have to consider is when you're looking at this, how long are you buying your servers for and how long do they last in your environment? There must be some other complexities involved in this.
Yeah. There's the networking piece. Do I need to get new networking for either of these solutions? There's a whole lot that goes into it. And of course, data growth. You have to estimate data growth. You can have a range because it can't be zero, right? You have to anticipate that these things are going to change over time.
So how would we actually start to do negotiations if I'm a customer?
That's a great point. Is so many people don't understand negotiations. And I like to think of a relative of mine who will remain anonymous because
Uncle Joey.
Uncle Joey. I don't want to drop names, but this particular relative loves going to a car dealership and seeing his same representative who gives him the loyalty discount, and he always walks away happy. That is the worst possible way to negotiate and get the best possible price for any good, be it a car, be it a storage system. This is Jimmy. I've known Jimmy for years. He takes me out to a nice steak dinner, and then I buy the storage system from him, and he gives me the good guy discount.
Right.
Well, I've worked on the flip side of this. I've worked on a pricing team, and I know that it costs a lot of money to acquire a customer, and then it's really cheap to keep a customer.
That is hilarious.
So it is the opposite of what you think. The more loyal a customer you are, over time, that you get worse and worse pricing.
I feel like you're sharing industry secrets that shouldn't be shared.
Yeah, it's time to air some dirty laundry of pricing.
I agree. I like that.
But so starting with negotiations, the first thing you have to realize is you have to negotiate with more than one party. So where most people start is what we call a distributive agreement, where there's this one thing that one party has and the other party wants, and we just haggle over price. And that's our deal. And that's how most deals go. But how do you get better? How do you do better than that? How can I lower the cost of whatever I'm buying just through negotiation? And the first thing to do is you have to realize that rather than have a distributive, just a one-on-one, is I need to invite another party to the table, right? I need to get multiple people bidding for my business to get the best possible offer. And the great thing about our industry is that, sure, we customize these things a little bit for our particular needs, but at the end of the day, there are multiple resellers, there are multiple vendors selling essentially the same thing, and they can bid for your business.
Yeah.
So just going and getting another quote for something similar, be it from, say, another storage vendor, like if you're bidding with Dell, go talk to HPE. If you're looking at vSAN ready nodes, talking to, say, HPE, go see a Lenovo and just get a quote, see what they can do for you. And magically, when you tell the other party, oh, hey, I'm talking to this guy, you're probably going to get a better deal. Or you can go to another reseller and ask for the same Dell equipment, but from a different reseller. You might get a different outcome.
It's interesting. These are very similar negotiation tactics that you would do, like you said, for a car or anything else. Like, so are there other tips, like possibly like changing what you're actually going to purchase and to sort of, if I buy more than one, will I get a better price?
Yeah, absolutely. Volume discounts are another great way to do that. So again, going back to the distributive agreement, if we're just haggling over one little thing, then we're just going to go back and forth on it. But if you bring something else into the picture, is there something else that you need beyond storage? Can you add, say, professional services or what have you to the deal? You may end up getting a much better discount overall for everything if you can add multiple things at one time. I actually have an insurance company where, in my personal life, where they said, hey, if you add, this additional coverage, I can get you a bigger discount that will actually cover the cost of that item. I can get you a better overall deal. So, just adding more things into that deal can get you a better discount, a better price. So rather than haggling over that one thing, you can do a lot better.
That's brilliant. I like that. Does that also apply to storage? I'm sorry, does that also apply to software? I know we talked about hardware. Does that extend to software?
It does. So yeah, you start with hardware. If you want to add software into the deal, that's another way to expand that deal, get a better overall discount for everything that you need. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so VMware licensing is certainly part of that. Like, what do we know about the changes as it pertains to licensing? I know there's been a lot of changes over the last year. Like, how does that play into the cost configuration?
Yeah, so it's really interesting if you're looking at it from a storage perspective, because with the new VCF licensing, once you decide to go VCF licensing, it includes vSAN. It's 1 terabyte per core. And so for the more cores that you get, the more vSAN entitlement you get. And so now that you have this software-defined storage system that you're already purchasing, that brings enormous value to you as a VMware customer, because you're getting that system with the bundle, right? So now I can deploy this and I don't have to pay anything extra. I just need the hardware to run it on. So it makes a really compelling economic case for going VCF, because you get that storage in there already.
Yeah, that's amazing. So have you been presenting this anywhere? Is this a session? Because it needs to be a session if it's not a session.
It is absolutely a session, and it'll be there tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., bright and early. So hopefully get some folks there that are really interested in finance and economics.
Yeah.
Really happy to share. John and I worked with a third party to help us do a TCO study. So we're going to share some of the findings from that study. And I've got another one coming out real soon that I did with IDC, very similar. So multiple data points, really, talking about, hey, when you go VCF and you go vSAN, you can save on the hardware costs, you can save on the support costs, you can save on the OpEx costs. And multiple data points are kind of triangulating at about a 30% TCO savings over 5 years.
Very nice. We're going to leave a link to the show notes in the podcast of all of Tom's sessions. Tom, what is the name of the session so people can look for it?
Oh gosh, don't ask me that.
something. Just Google Tom Nagelmeyer, VMware Explorer. No, this has been a fantastic conversation, Tom. I always love talking to you, and I'm so glad that we finally got you on Virtually Speaking. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, Pete. It was great to be here.